Guys, welcome back to Blue Period Breakdowns of Clockwork Noodles. This is it. This is the final episode. This episode will go as normal. We'll break down the episode. I'll give you some final thoughts, give you a final score and what I ranked it on Mal. That'll be it. That'll be the last time I talk about Blue Period on the channel, unless it gets a second season, but I don't think it's going to. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed. There will be a final review of the entire anime period coming out in about a week's time now, where I crown my top 3 anime of the period. What is my hidden gem of the season as well. I will also be telling you what is coming your way for the next period, what anime is coming your way, what I'm excited to see and review on my channel. I think it's an anime season of 2 halves. And there's also a Discord channel for anyone who wants to get a notification when things go up, and you'll get that notification when that video finally goes up, as I can't give you an exact date when it's going up just yet. Last week we left off at Yutora apparently having this mega breakdown of freaking out, pouring half a bottle of turpentine onto his art book. I did note it helps speed up the dry time, but it's not actually what he uses it for, so I was off the mark as well. Turpentine technically is used for paint mixing and it helps speed up the dry time on oil paints, but he's actually using it in the art book, the workbook itself, to create a transparent sheet. Yutora even confesses, I'm not insane. He knew what was going on. He's used this method before. He had a hunch. It just looked completely random to everybody around him. It's the idea that he believes that self and the nude model is the idea of self. That's what he's trying to get across, is the idea that he feels transparent at times. And I like this little method, and I like the link to the title piece that he gives it. The workbook is also part of the exam. It's part of like them seeing the journey you've taken. Yutora, throughout the entire season, has really just done this presumption thing where he's always presuming that good people are confident and they know that they're going to pass, therefore their art is good, which is not the case. And I think this might be one of the big lessons for him, is you need to stop presuming, because it's not just the case. Takahashi telling him, I'm just good, and you praising me and thinking that I'm going to be confident is because it's the same as breathing to him. It's just natural. You wouldn't praise somebody for being very good at breathing. Unless it's Demon Slayer, then you can definitely say the breathing in that anime is very impressive. Final day of the exam, we receive a nice good start with support from Mum, and I like the fact that she's holding the very first picture that he drew her. This is what we needed. The anime was so fast, it actually breezed past the point where she was on the phone, she acknowledging that she was worried and that he wasn't that good as an artist. We did breeze through it. We literally touched upon it and then we never came back to it. That, I think, is probably explored more in the material itself. It's nice to see the support coming round. First time since that last phone call. I think it was on phone she said it. His painting as a whole emphasises the idea of the model being in focus. Detailed, and I like this. And therefore he has the background as smooth and blurring out. I also noticed that all the other students in the picture are shadows because they're not important. The idea is that the model, with the rest of it being but quite blurry, the model is in focus. She is emphasized and is the focal point of the artist. Him doing this also draws the eye back to the model. It's quite a nice unique piece that a lot of photographers even use, with the idea of leading lines. I think the core of the entire anime is just becoming your own artist. It's the idea of self, the idea of identity. And Yutora needs to become his own artist. He needs to stop trying to be like the people around him. Compliment number 2 is from Takahashi, where he compliments Yutora's technique, and he's actually quite jealous because he's achieved it so quickly and he's made so much of a leap in bounds. A massive just shock to the system for Yutora. I also think it's funny that you can imagine him suddenly hearing the start where he talks about how he did something, thinking he's about to get criticised, then finding out it's actually being complimented by the person he really does look up to, somebody he considers a natural talent. Takahashi sliding away as Yutora has a mini breakdown is so in character. That was so him. I expected him to do that because he doesn't know how to handle people, and suddenly Yutora having this mini breakdown, he's like, I don't want to be seen with you, there's people walking by. I like the image of seeing him covered in paint when we get the blues all over him, because blue period, it really fits with him. The idea of blue period in this anime in particular, I think it's more that it's a negative. It's the idea of being around. When you're blue, you're down, and most artists who go through blue periods are at a low point. Definitely think that at the end we see him perhaps at his highest, but all the way through the anime we've seen him at a low, not quite at his high just yet. I like the fact that he spends a fair bit of time on his workbook and he uses the last stretch of the exam to finish the workbook. It's nice because it actually backs up your idea. So if your picture isn't quite there, but the theory behind it is solid, you can cover some of the gaps up and have the book there to take a bit of a fall for you, because you can explain this is what I was doing, I wasn't quite there. I like that because it's still considered. That's it. The exam is officially over, and let's talk a little bit about the final piece. I think the final piece is very, very nice. I hope I don't get a YouTube strike for being nude on this one. It's great. I like it because of how detailed the model is, and the fact that there's a lot of different textures and layers going on with how thick the paint is in certain places. Then even on the model itself, it's like scratched away, so it's quite thin. The paint on that bit is thin, creating a nice texture. Amazing to consider this painting right here, this amazing painting, which you go, oh yeah, that's definitely done by an artist. Compare that to the first ever piece we saw on Blue Period, the blue morning, and the buildings were at an angle and it was just lines, what you can imagine a kid would draw. This compared to that is amazing, and it really does show you how far he's come in 12 episodes. Sad thing is that he actually misses his graduation for the result. Imagine failing. We know how low the exam admittance rate is. Imagine failing and actually having to miss the one-in-a-lifetime graduation that you only get one. Painful. That's really, really painful. I do feel for the people who ended up missing out and then also missing out on a place in university as well. Mega kudos at the art tutors. Considering the old lady, and then we have Oba, both of these tutors have been absolutely amazing. I think I praised them as they came up in the anime as a whole anyway. Fantastic supportive characters, fantastic great characters. The way the initial art tutor handled the guy drawing Oppai, and she was like, fine, you draw boobs if you make them look good, if you make them look artistic, really put you back into it. I love that. It's just a fantastic way of inspiring students to be themselves but also be creative and artistic. How does Higuchi feel he's done after he's done his exam? Well, there's no point really worrying because what's done now is done. He stays humble. He says there's a lot to reflect on. He also knows that because he missed out on half a day's exam, he would have liked to have spent more time on his workbook. I like this because I always feel if you come out of an exam and you know where you could have improved, generally that says good things. If you come out of it feeling overly confident, that's not always a good thing. And I found the times when I don't think I'm going to do overly well, but I think I did okay, they're the times I did actually do okay. Everybody in the anime, Yutora and our crew graduate. So let's talk about the results. There's very surprising results that I was denying all the way through the anime, that he passes. He actually passes. The reaction of him suddenly breaking out in a sweat and just looking up, he literally looks up for a second and reacts, as you know immediately that he's definitely seen a number. It's not him gazing around, looking for it, looking nervous. He immediately lands on the number. He knows roughly where it would have been. And, well, he's very, very shocked. We also heard about the curse that if there was a student placing first in all the cram school assignments, they would not pass. Scarily is correct because Maki did not pass. And I'm very, very shocked. I feel so bad for her as well. I'm happy that she gets to try and give it another shot. But weird that they mentioned the curse, this little curse, and she continues that curse, so they actually did bring it back. It wasn't just something they said for the fun of it. If there was a season 2, it would seem that we're going to see more of Takahashi and Yatora because both of them did pass, but I don't quite think we're going to get a season 2. Parents reacting and just, I love it because it seems quite realistic, and she's literally just, oh my god, he made it, he did it. If anything, they have more reactions at this point than he does because he's still in shock. The reality of how well he did may have just dawned upon him. He did the impossible. It also dawns upon me of how far we've actually come. We get one last check-in with the second art tutor who made it all possible as well, Oba. Oba being a fantastic character. We do get as well that only 3 students made it through. That is ridiculously low. That class having to be cut down and then cut down again. That's scary. That is really, really scary. Odd thing at the end was where she told him that you're reproducing your final piece and I'll pay you. That's weird, but then I've considered that they want this as material so they can know what kind of pieces are going through. So it would make sense that they want to have the final pieces that did get through in the cram school so they can advise people going for next times on what to look for. Oba's advice really has been to never ever give up. All the way through the season with her, it's always been just never give up. The second reproduction of the piece actually looks a lot better, and generally it makes sense that the second piece would be better. If you go back and do something again, where you get to take your time, you're not in that stressful exam environment, and you're not freaking out, and you actually know what you're doing, it will look better. You'll be able to improve on pieces, you'll make it look a bit neater. Seeing it in its final glory at the end is fantastic, and of course coming full circle with Mori, the one whose piece actually really triggered that emotional response in Yutora in the first place, being absolutely inspired and amazed by the piece as a whole. Let's go down to the final breakdown. I gave this anime 7 out of 10. on Mouse, 7.8. So I gave it a fairly lowish score compared to the My Anime List one. The only reason I'm giving it such a low one is because of the speed. This anime does something amazing. It tries to tackle the idea of identity. It tackles some really serious topics that a lot of animes try and steer clear of, and it does try to do its best on being respectful with them. However, because of the fast pacing, I feel like they end up brushing over things that maybe deserve a little bit more time. And obviously the manga doesn't speed, and a lot of you have told me read the manga. I probably will be now, because I also want to see the artworks in person in the books. The anime speed often made things feel a bit dazzling, so when he's suddenly back in school, I completely forgot that he was still at school. He had to graduate still. Suddenly breakneck speed were all just focused in on the cram school and stuff. I completely forgot about these things. And then Yaguchi's friends completely just vanished. A lot of times, especially with Yuka as well, we don't really know what happened with Yuka in this, because we just see Yuka at the end feeling confident about Yaguchi, but what about the Yuka situation? It's an amazing anime. I love the angle of taking on art because, well, I'm an artist as well. I appreciate it. I don't think it was bad. I found it very entertaining. But I do think that for an anime about art, sometimes at best, the animation was lackluster. The artwork, amazing. The actual art pieces in this anime, fantastic. But the art itself is a bit mediocre for an art anime, which is fine if you're going to back up with a strong, solid story. The story for me was just so fast. There was a lot of gaps on it. We'll briefly touch upon something. The next episode, we're on something completely different. I did enjoy it. I found it entertaining. I did get a nice bit of inspiration from it myself. As a whole, I think the anime just needed to speed down a little bit. All the way throughout most of the season, we were left hanging, wondering how many episodes are there going to be. If it had suddenly been 24, it would have been speeding for nothing. So overall, I'm giving it that 7 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed it. 7 for me is generally a good score. As soon as I start dipping into the 6s, you know that I found it okay. Or I was like, okay, it's cool. I'm not going to think too much. 7, because I really enjoyed it. I think I will be touching the actual source material on this one. I really want to look at the art pieces, especially the piece of the angels as well. That looked amazing. Big thank you to everybody who has tuned in for these breakdowns. They have been an interesting breakdown for me. Oddly enough, even though it's not saying very much, they are the most viewed videos and breakdowns for me this entire season. It's been a very quiet season as a whole, and Blue Period has always had the highest view rate, even though it's oddly just one comment here and there. But it has done the biggest view rate, so a few of you have obviously tuned in and been curious about what I in general thought about the anime as a whole. I have to say thank you so much for supporting me. I hope I get to see you guys again in an anime next season as well. Tune in for that video to check what I am breaking down. I think there's a few that could possibly be interesting to people in this kind of crowd, people who are watching this anime. I look forward to seeing you possibly in another video. Make sure you take care of yourself, guys, and all the best. Bye-bye.